peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. This is the Diplomatic Leaks program from the Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya and the city of Pan-Africanism in East Africa. Good morning, viewers, wherever you are, in Cairo, in Tripoli, in Accra, in Lagos, in Cape Town, in Harare, in Kinshasa, in Kigali, in Dar es Salaam, in Maputo. Good morning. Good morning wherever you are, in Cairo again, in Asmara, in Mogadishu, Somalia, in Cote d'Ivoire. Good morning. In Upper Volta, Burkina Faso, in Lagos, Abuja. Good morning. Good morning in Cameroon, Yaoundé, and Ambazonia, where people are still fighting. Good morning in Libya, Tripoli, a country once a powerful country on the continent of Africa, reduced to rubble because of the American hegemony. Good morning. Good morning wherever you are, in Central African Republic, in Mali, where you are suffering from a conflict instigated by Western powers. Good morning. Good morning in North Nigeria, where Boko Haram is slaughtering innocent Christians, dying day and night. Good morning. Good morning in Democratic Republic of Congo, where the body of Patrice Lumumba was returned 3 weeks ago. Good morning. Good morning in Rwanda, Angola, where Agostino Neto, the MPLA, Fronasa, Frelimo, ANC in South Africa, ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. Good morning, Mzee Kaunda, wherever you are in Zambia. Long live, continue to guide us through this turmoil of our continent. Good morning, wherever you are in Juba, Dr. Riek Machar Salva Kiir. Good morning. Thank you for cooling down the conflict. Good morning, the panel back in the studios, linked from the capital city in Harare. All of you, good morning, Abigail. Good morning, Madaza. Good morning, Mama Mande Nyama. Good morning. Whoever is not mentioned will mention herself. I'll give you just half a second to introduce yourself, and I'll give you guidelines on how we are going to conduct this open lecture on sanctions on Zimbabwe. Remove sanctions on Zimbabwe. How we can help, and how this program, and how Africa, and how the world can stand to remove sanctions, to tell America that the targeted sanctions on Zimbabwe are hurting the Zimbabweans. Good morning, Miriam, in the studios of Punchline Africa in Nairobi, miles away from me. Good morning.
A very good morning to you, and a good morning to our panelists and our viewers wherever they're watching us from today.
And a good morning, Professor Onyari.
Good morning, Dr. Masanga, our panelists and our comrades from Zimbabwe, and those who are viewing us from the rest of the world.
Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Dr. Matanga, our panelists, and our viewers. This is Karen Joseph from Malindi.
Okay, Madam Abigail, introduce your panel.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Masanga. My name is Abigail Mpambi. I'm a civil society leader in Zimbabwe and a human rights defender. Thank you so very much.
Am I Monday? Say some word to test your microphone. Monday Nyama. Monday Nyama, are you on? We seem to have lost that one. Oh, Madam Nyan, Monday Nyama. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. Matanga. My name is Manyama from...
We can't hear you. I think you can use audio. Use the audio without the picture.
I'm from Okay, okay.
Yes, use the audio. Yes,
can you hear me now?
we hear you now clearly.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Manyama from Zimbabwe and from Zimbabwe. I'm a healthcare worker and also a civil society organization member. I run a project which is called Zimbabwe Family Centers Trust. We focus on health inequalities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Maganza. Say something to test your microphone.
Good morning, Dr. Matanga. Good morning, viewers. I am Wenceslaus Mangaza. I'm a proud Pan-Africanist from Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we wait for others to join us on the webinar for us to discuss more, I would like first of all to make a few comments. When you want to speak, you put up your hand. We shall bring you in the discussion. Don't wait for exhaustively for the topics to go, then you put up your hand. Come in, interject where possible by putting up your hand. We shall call your name out and then you speak. This topic is very important. It comes at the backdrop of African leaders, African heads of state calling upon America and the world to remove sanctions on Zimbabwe. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his address in the 75th United Nations General Assembly, called upon the people of America to remove sanctions against the people of Zimbabwe. President Ramaphosa, of the chairman of African Union and the 7 heads of state, President Museveni, President Kagame, and almost of the African heads of state who spoke to the United Nations General Assembly, called upon the United Nations to pressurize America to remove targeted sanctions against Zimbabwe. Remember, the Western countries, most of them have lifted sanctions against Zimbabwe in Europe. It is only America that has stayed with targeted sanctions against individuals. And it is only America that increases and threatens to increase these sanctions against Zimbabwe. Due to the public demand and due to the topic itself that now allows us to engage the world and talk about Zimbabwe and talk about how we can remove sanctions, we can help how African countries, how President Uhuru Kenyatta, President Ramaphosa, President Magufuli, President Kagame, President Museveni, they all came up in a united front that sanctions must be removed against Zimbabwe. But where did we go wrong? It is ourselves who looked for these sanctions. It's the opposition in Zimbabwe that looked for the sanctions. It is on record that the late Mokani Jangarai and Professor Wadishimani Kube, Tendai Biti, they all moved around the world calling for sanctions to be imposed on the government of the then President Mugabe. They called them sanctions that will actually punish the leadership of Zimbabwe. To the contrary, Actually, these sanctions have not punished the leadership of Zimbabwe, because the leadership of Zimbabwe continues to have the leadership. The changes in Zimbabwe continue to be in the same direction. The ruling party, ZANU-PF, continues to be in power. It is unshaken. So if you were putting sanctions to shake ZANU-PF, to shake the leadership, then the sanctions have not worked. Why should you continue with the same sanctions against Zimbabwe? Time has come for us now, as Africans, to stand up and defend Zimbabwe against the targeted sanctions of the West. Time has come now for the people of Africa to unite, to call upon America, to call upon the Trump administration that sanctions and more sanctions because of a fake opposition that affects abductions, that affects human rights abuses, that affects, that cries, keeps on crying. Yet the sanctions were called by the same organization called Movement for Democratic Change in Zimbabwe. It is therefore my submission to this panel that it is the most important item of our lives that before Zimbabwe can recover from the consequences of the sanctions, we must shout and shout and shout and deliver our message to the capital cities of the world that sanctions are hurting the people, the ordinary people of Zimbabwe. That sanctions are not hurting President Mnangagwa as an individual. Targeted sanctions hurt not individuals. They hurt those individuals who give services, who go and look for services, who are supposed to trade. They are hurting our banks. They are hurting the banking sector. They are hurting the agriculture sector. They are hurting the industrial sector. Zimbabwe cannot use its resources equitably to buy what they need. Zimbabwe cannot buy medicine, yet they have their resources to buy medicine. Because America has put sanctions on banks, on institutions, on individuals who can trade with Zimbabwe. It is therefore sad that as we sit here today, as we are on this panel today, we see a country besieged. We see a country besieged by regime change tactics. We see a country where regime change is being perpetrated through the MDC. The cabal in the MDC are working in cohort with George Soros to deliver a revolution in Zimbabwe. The cartels of MDC are faking human rights abuses to deliver Zimbabwe into the hands of the lion called America. America has never been friendly to Zimbabwe. From the time of the unilateral independence by Ian Smith, America, through Andrew Young and other people, tried to persuade Zimbabwe to change the course and work the way they want. The founding fathers of this country called Zimbabwe rejected what the Americans proposed. And they have never been happy with those proposals. I therefore submit that we have lamented so much about these sanctions. Our role today on this panel is to find ways we can beat these sanctions. Can Zimbabwe only continue to talk about sanctions? Can't we find other ways as Africans, as Kenyan businessmen, as Kenyans? Can we start trading directly with our people in Zimbabwe? Can we give Zimbabwe credit lines in our countries, those people watching, the businessmen in Kenya, those who would like to go and invest in Zimbabwe, in the mining, in the agricultural sector, in the industrial sector, there is quite a lot of advantages that you can get. Therefore, our role today on this panel is to find out, can Zimbabwe beat sanctions? We have enemies within, traitors within and without, traitors within the country of Zimbabwe that work with foreign international agencies to destroy Zimbabwe. We have G40 that is well positioned in South Africa, and some of them in Kenya, Moyo is in Nairobi, and others. We have quite a lot of agencies that are poised to regime change the government of President Emerson Mnangagwa. Yesterday, I listened to the Minister of State for Security saying the same things that I've been saying for a long time. Manganza and Abigail, you heard me say these things so many times, that there are people plotting to overthrow, to regime change a government violently, funded by George Soros, given by money by George Soros to come and overthrow governments in Africa. I've said that time and time again. People have thought I was a madman. It is now here. You can see it coming closer in Zimbabwe, forming groups, training groups. Father Mawerere is busy training how to bring a revolution in Zimbabwe. He is busy trotting the globe, the world, to tarnish the name of the people of Zimbabwe. Does that help us? Does that help Africa? Thank you very much. I submit. Therefore, the panel is ready for discussion, and Miriam will give us some brief notes about sanctions. Then I will go to the opening remarks of Magaza, Abigail, Mande, Mande, then Karen, then we have Professor to come in to wrap it up in the first round of our discussion opening remarks. Miriam, over to you in the headquarters in Nairobi.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Matanga, for that introduction. Now, we know that Zimbabwe is one of the most sanctioned countries, not just in Africa, but joins the list across the world, like the countries like Iran, North Korea, and others. So in Africa, Zimbabwe actually is one of the most sanctioned countries. Now, the Southern African country has, in the last few years, undertaken a series of efforts aimed at the lifting of Western sanctions imposed against it since 2001. So what happened there in 2001? Well, Tendai Biti and other MDC officials traveled to the United States of America, where they unanimously called for sanctions against Zimbabwe. And in March, ZIDERA was passed and ratified by the United States of America Congress. Immediately, Danish international development agencies withdrew aid funding, various vertical health programs to the tune of about $29.7 million US. And then the Swedish government withdrew about $6.4 million US worth of grant towards supporting HIV and AIDS, water and sanitation, alleviating disability and health education. Access to the Global Fund grant was also turned down. And in 2002, in February, the European Union foreign ministers imposed smart sanctions against Zimbabwe. I don't even know why they even call it smart. And the EU said it was cutting off 128 million euros in development aid for the 2002-2007 period. In 2003, the European airlines like Lufthansa, British Airways, Air France, KLM, and Qantas exited the Zimbabwean market. A transport sector support program funded by Danida to the tune of $48 million was discontinued, and the list goes on, continues until last year. I think the Zimbabwean government organized a protest against sanctions that was really affecting the country, and also called for prayers. So that is where we are, and the rest of the sanctions we shall be looking at as we continue with our program. So perhaps we start with Abigail. The sanctions that have been put forth against Zimbabwe, have they affected the people they say they've been sanctioned, or have they affected the general public, that is Zimbabweans? Abigail.
Abigail.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much, Doctor. I hope you can hear me. I want to, first of all, I think you have summarized it very well, Doctor. The issue of Zimbabwe is now just a public knowledge that we are under pressure. We are in between a hard rock and a hard surface. The issue of sanctions, economic sanctions meant to paralyze the economy, and true to the target, our economy has been paralyzed. But here is the dilemma. It is the people on the ground, the people not on the list, who are suffering. I say, and I describe this, sanctions are a human rights violation. Sanctions are punitive. Sanctions against, so to speak, there are even illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe. In simple terms, sanctions are a punishment for some wrongdoing. But to this day, what did Zimbabwe do to deserve such? Of course, we know very well that we have got some of our colleagues, some of our leaders who knowingly or unknowingly or in a stupid manner, so to use that word, went and demanded or requested sanctions against their own kin and kin. Meaning to say, sanctions against your own mother, sanctions against your own sister, paying on your sister, paying on your brother. It's disheartening. But here we are in Zimbabweans. This is the situation we found ourselves in. But going forward also, I want to appreciate the African leaders in the recent meeting for taking such a stance. And of course, we know that even sometime last year, countries here in South Africa, they made leaders also accepted and they put their voice against the sanction. And I think going forward, what is critical, what is important, is to understand that a problem in some parts or some part of Africa is a problem everywhere in Africa. We are calling upon to say, as leaders, they've already taken a stance. Let's have our brothers and sisters across Africa putting together their voices against these illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe. It's not an easy situation, but the other message here is these sanctions are claimed to be targeted, but believe me, I can tell you they missed the target. Those people, so-called people targeted, they are not affected anyway and anyhow. They missed the target. It is the male woman, the male boy, girl child, boy child, they in the street suffering from the impact and effect of this very, very sanctions. So I quickly summarize and say, sanctions are a human rights violation. Sanctions against Zimbabwe are a human rights violation, and they must go, they must be removed unconditionally. This is a clear code that are coming in from a human rights perspective. This is a gross human rights violations that sometimes if you have to think of it, if you have to talk of it, sometimes you even go emotional.
Abigail, just a moment. Abigail, we seem to be having a problem with your audio. We can't exactly get you very clearly. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but we get what you're saying. So maybe if you can, I'm being told if maybe you try with the earphones, perhaps that will make a difference. But as we wait for you to do that, Mr. Mangaza, Abigail there has brought up a couple of issues, and she's saying these sanctions against Zimbabwe, or the targeted sanctions as they like to call them, are punitive and they amount to human rights violations. What's your take?
Thank you very much, Miriam. I'd lost my connection actually, so I was reconnecting. That is quite true what Abigail has said, that sanctions do affect, and they affect the ordinary person. Not, they claim that they are targeted, but in reality they are not targeted. They are targeted at the nation. As we know that sanctions serve 4 basic purposes. One, firstly, they freeze the financial assets. Secondly, they suspend technical and aid assistance. 3, they trade. They also control. They cut off trade with other countries. And 4th, they blacklist the target country. And this is what has happened to Zimbabwe. We have been blacklisted to the world, saying that we are not able to trade freely with any other country. We find out some of our banks, which have recently been unfrozen, it's like the CBZ and as well as the ZB Bank. They have been unfrozen, but actually they were under sanctions. So meaning to say that they were not able to trade freely, to carry out transactions in behalf of the country with the rest of the world. So we find out that when a so-called superpower fails to impose its interest on a host country, for example, like Zimbabwe, they turn to the use of sanctions in order to twist the country into submission through the stinging sanctions. And then this is what has happened. So we find out that sanctions appease the interest of the country which imposes them rather than the world at large, and also the country which is affected. So with these targeted sanctions per se, I want to say targeted sanctions, that with these sanctions, because sanctions are wholesome, they affect us totally. We feel that Zimbabwe is not an island. We do not live in isolation. We are part of the world. And so it is very important for us to be able to trade with the world, to be able to travel freely, so that at least we carry out the mandate which the people voted the government into power to do for its people. So what I suggest we should do as Zimbabweans is that we should continue with our diplomatic steps, to continue with alliances with those countries which are friendly to us. Secondly, I also feel that we should develop an import substituting industry whereby we produce our own products rather than us importing. We produce our own products so that at least we fit our own local market, other than relying on those which come from countries which impose sanctions on us. Also, we have got to divert our trade, Zimbabwe's trade, to new trading partners. There are other countries which are willing to trade with us. So instead of us trading with the Americans, instead of us with the Europe, we find other countries there. We've got the Far East and in other countries which are interested in trading with us. We continue trading with that. And also, President Mnangagwa has continued is using the re-engagement process. And then he is succeeding in his process of re-engagement. And then we have got to continue with the re-engagement process so that at least the rest of the world, we understand that we are not enemies to our own people, we are not enemies to the world, but we are a friendly nation which is just there to fulfill the wishes of its people. As I have said before, that the West failed us to us into living those programs which are meant to benefit the people. For example, the land reform program, unfortunately, they then decided to impose sanctions so that the people will reverse the land program. But
Monday, Magada, hold on. Monday, your equipment is bringing some noise from the ground. Mm-hmm. If you are not using it, please switch it on. Yeah, like that.
Yes, we shall come to you after that. So in the meanwhile,
we are coming to you after Mr. Magada.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, continue, sir.
Okay, thank you. As I said earlier, that the West is intention was to twist the Zimbabwean government so that it would drop the land reform program. And then the land will be taken by our former colonizers, the white people who had taken over our land. And then our government said, no, we cannot do that. And so we cannot allow that. And to us as Zimbabweans, we say the land reform program is done and dusted. and there is no reversal of that. We know our land is bestowed with minerals, as we discussed last week. And so, which means we know the West is quite interested in what is bestowed in the barrier of our Zimbabwean earth. And so they try to do anything in order to skew that, and then will force us into submission. But unfortunately, we cannot be forced into submission. There should be a mutual agreement between Zimbabwe and the world that we should work together as one family for the benefit of Zimbabweans and then for the benefit of those countries which want to trade with us. And so we say sanctions is a big no, and sanctions must go.
All right, very well said there, Mandy. Now we can come to you there. Mr. Mangaza says these sanctions, they're just an out for twisting Zimbabwe and also forcing the country into submission for whatever interest and the Western world especially has there in Zimbabwe. What do you make of that?
Thank you very much, Pastor Judy. My own views are there's nothing in called smart sanctions or targeted sanctions because sanctions have a negative impact on the living standards and humanitarian situation of Zimbabwean people. So there's nothing that is called smart or targeted sanctions. Let me give you an example. Okay, they say the government wants to punish the headmaster of the school. They don't punish the headmaster of the school. They think they're punishing the headmaster of the school. They'll even punish the teachers. And they'll punish the students. So as for myself, as for my own opinion, there's nothing called smart sanctions or targeted sanctions on Zimbabwean leaders. And those people that are inhuman who call for sanctions, they don't have a heart. We are Africans. We say love your neighbor, and see the way you love yourself. You don't want your neighbor to suffer because you'll be getting something from the West. So as for me, I say sanctions are not targeted, but they have a negative impact. Even for the reconstruction and economic growth in Zimbabwe, they have a huge impact. Myself, I'm from Kwekwe Midlands. And quickly, like Zisco, if you heard of Zimbabwe Iron Steel Company, it was a backbone of Zimbabwe. And it was not even a backbone of Zimbabwe, but it was a backbone of Africa because they used to deal with steel. So this Zisco is no longer functional because of this sanction, because it is a government parastatal. It was affected by the sanction, and most people lost. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you there. You're not very audible, so if you can increase the volume there and perhaps look for earphones the next time you'll be responding. But go ahead, complete your thought.
Okay, I was saying that I'm from Midlands and from Kwekwe, we had Cisco Steel. Cisco Steel was a government parastatal and it was also affected by the sanctions. And most people, they lost their jobs. So there is nothing like targeted or smart sanctions. And those people who caught on sanctions that are inhuman, that are African. Because as Africans, we know that we should love our neighbor the way we love ourselves. We help even our neighbors. We can't call for some, we won't be ready to see people suffering. Also sanctions, they increase in poverty gap. There's no if many companies say close in Zimbabwe, so many people now they are unemployed. It means the poverty gap is increasing in Zimbabwe. So myself, I say no to sanctions because it is even affected the we are involved.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mandy. Yes, thank you. But in the meantime, if you can get a hold of an earphone. If you can get a headpiece or an earphone, it will improve the quality of your audio there. But thank you so much. We got what you said there. Now we move to perhaps our Kenyan panelist before I take it back to Doctor. Professor, a lot of issues have come out there from our panelists from Zimbabwe itself. And one of the key things there that Mr. Mangaza said earlier was that Zimbabwe, the sanctions against Zimbabwe are a form of human rights abuse. I think it's Abigail that said that earlier. And we know one of the reasons as to why the European Union, the US, have put these sanctions on Zimbabwe is they're saying Zimbabwe has a very bad record when it comes to human rights abuse. But, now we understand that these sanctions also are a form of human rights abuse. What do you make of this, Professor?
Before Professor goes, I think Professor can summarize. Let's hear from the guest. There's another guest in the corner.
Okay, I did not know that.
From Harare.
Okay, good.
Mr. Mira from Harare. The guest on top of Monday. Motion. Is that motion Matumai? The gentleman, yes, it's you. It's you, yes. Yes, sir. Comrade, can we hear from you? Comrade, can we hear from your views? Can we have your views? We are talking to you on Mr. Mira. We can see Mira, the name.
Maybe he just wants to listen up. As we wait for him to fix that, is he able to join?
Are you able to join and talk to us?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Professor.
Yes. Professor will come up with a summary.
Okay.
Let's hear from Karen.
Okay, thank you, Dr. and Miriam and my fellow panelists. I would like to quote from what President Dr. Magufuli, the chairman of SADC, said some time back. And he said the sanctions not only affect the people of Zimbabwe, their government, but the entire region. And he gave an example of if you are to chop off a part of your human body, then it will affect the rest of the body. So that is how the sanction affects not only Zimbabwe, but the rest of the region. And I think it slows down the process. We're trying to grow economically, but as long as the sanctions are there, we slow down the whole progress thing. Honorable because of sanctions that can be lifted, and it's very difficult for Zimbabweans to fully realize their full potential when they have hindrances, and the hindrances we're talking about here are the sanctions. The government can measure. The government cannot be on the basis of capacity without these hindrances. For us to measure the capacity of what the government can do, they need to be lifted. And I don't know why they're still holding it against Zimbabwe, because it's very clear. We all know that cooperation is a win-win situation. But when it comes to sanctions, it's a lose-lose game. So I think Zimbabwe deserves a restart. Zimbabwe deserves another chance of being led to grow, and it can only do that when these sanctions are lifted. And that is when the Western investors can come in.
We seem to be having a problem there with the Karen's signal. Karen,
not Karen. I think it is interference coming from Mr. Mira.
Okay.
Karen, are you able to finish? Okay, Miriam, Professor, that's round number 1. Summarize it for us. Bring it down.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga and Miriam and the comrades for Zimbabwe for us discussing this important topic. But the time has come for us to come forward more than another time before for the lifting of sanctions against the people of Zimbabwe. When any part of the body is affected, the entire body is affected. Africa, we cannot sit when the children of Zimbabwe cannot go to school, when the ordinary people of Zimbabwe cannot go to hospital and find drugs, when the young people of Zimbabwe cannot find an employment. And I'm asking, they are saying the simple reasons why the sanctions are there, Miriam, is simply because Zimbabwe does not follow the rule of law and the violation of human rights fair. But Miriam, I do ask myself, these people who are trying to lecture us on democracy and human rights, when they were taking the African people to the West to come and go and have cheap labor, was it not a violation of human rights? When we are having every day flights taking off from Democratic Republic of Congo, children being killed and their diamonds and the gold is being taken, is not a violation of human rights? Miriam, when we are having people from Libya, from North Africa crossing to Europe,
Professor, hold on. Mr. Mira, when you are talking on the phone, the studio, please block the oh, no.
Okay, we really apologize for that. Maybe we just need to let him finish and then we'll have him join us again.
Miriam, when the young African people are crossing over to Europe, dying in the Mediterranean Sea, is this not a violation of human rights? When you call Zimbabwe an axis of evil, you put it in the league of Iran, of North Korea, who are manufacturing nuclear weapons to come and destroy mankind? Do you think the violation of human rights and lack of law, rule of law in Zimbabwe will interfere with mankind? Miriam, the answer is no. President Emerson has opened the political space. He has called people to the negotiating table. He has improved the rule of law, transparency and accountability. He has speeded the war against corruption. Miriam, what else again do you want him to do? Remember the people, the protagonist of this was the late Comrade Bob, Robert Mugabe, and Morgan. They are no longer there. But the country suffers, Miriam. Hear this, Miriam. When you say now it's a violation of human rights, when children cannot go to school, when young people cannot find employment, when we cannot find drugs in the hospital, Miriam, is that not a violation of human rights? Miriam, hear this. America is one of them. When somebody suffocates you until you die, like the case of George Floyd, it's not a violation of human rights. What I'm trying to pose this question to our African people, our African leaders. The spirit I have seen them accepting at United Nations when they are addressing, that is great. Miriam, I have said here and again that nobody is going to address the problem facing the continent of Africa. Miriam, the population of African people of 1.2 billion people. Dr. Masanga has said that we have to change our strategy and tactics on how we have to treat ourselves. We can be able to treat ourselves. And the Miriam, time has come for us to look who are our friends. You know, Miriam, someone was lecturing to Kenya some times back that the choices have got consequences. And the people chose not to trade with us. We looked for the friends to our friends. We looked at East. They came knocking our doors, wanting to us to do business with them. So the African people, time has come for us to make noise. Time has come for us to lift each other. And the moment our comrades from Zimbabwe are talking and are having this conversation, engage the rights of Chamisa, that we are Africans. People who came and took our land, Miriam, look, sometimes, Miriam, I don't know what even to say. Some people come and take our land, use it. When we want to make use of it, they say it is a violation of human rights. That one is totally unacceptable. The sanctions of the removal, economic sanctions against Zimbabwe should be removed. Miriam, you cannot delete and erase history. History is there. What was the role of United States when there was apartheid in South Africa and even UK? What was their role? Did they put sanctions? Was there a violation of human rights? Was there killing of innocent people, children? So Miriam, time has come for the African people to rise up. And we say that we are human, you are children of one God. We are not children of a lesser God. We need to be treated. We have not gone to another continent to torment or cause chaos or take their resources. So that is my submission. Miriam, we should continue talking day, night, yesterday, today, every other day, until they lift sanctions. We shall rise again as African people.
All right, well, very well. So the government of Zimbabwe last year bemoaned the sanctions and declared a day of prayer and protest against the sanctions. As I said there earlier, Harare also got regional blocs like SADC to weigh in on the issue, as did the African Union Commission chief shortly after SADC, that is sometimes back in 2019. So after that, the EU ambassador to Zimbabwe reacted, and this is what he said. The EU ambassador in the country, Tim Orkonen, in an interview with Trevor Nkube, explained why the bloc did not have sanctions against Zimbabwe, but clarified that they maintained restrictive measures on Zimbabwe, principally the defense industry, on 3 high-profile individuals, including former Army Chief turned Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, and the EU ambassador to the African Union, Raniera Sabatucci, in a tweet dispelled the issue of EU sanctions and reiterated the fact that the bloc was rather engaging Zimbabwe in the area of development assistance via grants. So what they're saying in a nutshell, EU has no sanctions against Zimbabwe, or what they termed as the smart sanctions. So they're saying, what sanctions? Abigail. Abigail, go ahead.
I think I can come in here.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
The type of sanctions which they call restrictive,
smart.
It's nothing like a smart. There can't be a smart sanction which is big people.
Sanction is sanction.
Very candidly, call it cruel, evil as sanctions.
Yes.
They are not smart. If they were smart, then they could make Zimbabwe smart. So this question of using different jargon language should stop. These are bad sanctions. Whether you are target, okay, you target an industry. How many people does that industry employ? How many people does the industry employ? Zimbabwe industry, defense industry, employs thousands and thousands of people. They earn a living from the salaries in those industries. So if you target a defense industry, you have crippled the people's families. People cannot afford school fees for their children. So you cannot say smart.
Yes.
Smart in dress, smart in color, smart in height, smart in what? What are sanctions for? Why can't America get sanctions for COVID-19? Because if they put sanctions for COVID-19, we shall be very all right. We shall know that China produced COVID-19, which is killing us. Why can't they put sanctions on the mayor of Wuhan? Why can't they put sanctions on George Soros, who went to manufacture the vaccine in Wuhan? Why can't they put sanctions on Bill Gates, who's selling the medicine to kill Africans? Stupid people. Why can't they put sanctions on people who are killing blacks in America? The policemen, instead of going to jail, they should go to sanctions school, never to be part and parcel of the police. Is there more brutality in America? Is there more brutality in Zimbabwe than in America, where you cannot walk, everyone has a gun? Zimbabwe has guns, but they regulate their guns. There are no people shooting each other in the streets of Harare. Is that a country you can put sanctions on? There is rule of law in Zimbabwe. The few people who are faking this, the people who are faking these abductions, they want them for getting a few dollars. They want to be given a few dollars. You fake an abduction and you are given some money. Isn't it true? This is what is happening about opposition in Africa. So many opposition parties in Africa cry foul. In my own country, in Uganda, some of them are crying foul. They don't have even money to pay money for deposit for elections. They have been caught now. The electoral law that says before you stand as a president, you must bring 30 billion shillings. Now wait, where do you get 1 billion shillings of Uganda money? You have to beg George Soros to give you the money. Are you getting my point, my Zimbabwe people? It is not only happening in your place, it is happening even in our place. Look at what is happening in Tanzania now. The opposition is funded fully by George Soros. They are having a rough time to struggle with Chama cha Mapinduzi of Magufuli. But where is the money coming from? It is coming all the way from George Soros funding. Everywhere. Look at what they did in Mogadishu, in Somalia. They extended 4 years for their puppet president, Faramijo, to remain a president for another 4 years. Where is the money coming from? Does Somalia have money? Somalia has no money. It doesn't even have a toilet. Not yet. They haven't built good toilets. They are still fighting. They are terrorists there. But who is giving them the money? The same imperial surrogate proxies of America and France. I'm telling you, there are no smart sanctions. Nobody should lie to you that there are smart sanctions. Sanctions are never smart. Sanctions can never be smart when they are killing children in hospitals in Harare. Zimbabwe is able to sell its gold, its diamonds, and earn money and come back and buy food for their people. Americans say no. Any diamonds coming from Zimbabwe should not be sold on the market. That is how bad it is. This is something that Africa must reject, the world must reject, and leaders in Africa must stand together, sanction those who support such things. We cannot go on glorifying Chamisa when Chamisa is busy organizing the white silver lining organization that is emerging in Zimbabwe, with the American ambassador having meetings at night. They have meetings at night to disorganize Emerson Mnangagwa. We know it. We pick everything that they do. So we are not going to sit quiet, pretty, and say, these were smart sanctions. We are being lied to. We are being fooled. That is smart, using the smart. What is smart? Surely. Miriam, Abigail wants to say something.
Go ahead.
Using what is a smart sanction? A
Smart.
Yes.
Smart sanctions are a poison to any economy, to any country, to any community. So I don't see what is called smart poison. Poison is poison. It kills, it destroys. Sanctions have destroyed our health system. The country cannot access credit lines. Investors cannot freely trade with Zimbabwe. Banks are under sanctions. Companies are under sanctions. Workers are not working. Sanctions are just a poison. So the issue of calling sanctions smart, it does not work. It does not exist. There is nothing like that. There is nothing called smart poison. Poison is poison. It kills. And this is what has paralyzed Zimbabwe. This is what has taken us this far. I think we need to look inwards as Africans and as the Zimbabweans and stop this self-hate where we allow other people to go and invite problems for the country, to go and invite injections that poison the people, that poison the waters where everyone has to drink. This is where we have found ourselves in. I think, Dr. Matsanga, you were talking about we need also to sanction those who are calling for sanctions against the masses. And I think that also speaks to what the nation Zimbabwe is doing right now. I think we need a very strong patriotic act, and we cannot exercise anything silly outside such boundaries because national interest overshadows everything else. We can't have individuals teaming up against the interest of the masses. So I continue to say sanctions are human rights violation. And those who have imposed the sanctions on Zimbabwe they do not have moral to lecture anyone whatsoever around human rights. Because you cannot punish a country because they acquired or they taken back what belongs to them. That is the land. This is what senators around land reform. Senators around what was the time when Zimbabwe decided to reclaim back their land. And you cannot punish a nation or a people or a community for taking back what rightfully belongs to them and begin to talk about rights and claim rights over things that does not belong to you. So I continue to say, even as we love here in Zimbabwe and across the borders and across the globe, sanctions in Zimbabwe are a major example of gross human rights violations done by the West against the people of Zimbabwe and indeed the ordinary people of Zimbabwe.
In 2005, addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York, the late former President Robert Mugabe blamed unilateral sanctions by countries that do not wish Zimbabwe well for the country's deepening economic crisis. And in 2006, IMF Executive Board upheld sanctions against Zimbabwe. It decided not to restore Zimbabwe's voting and related rights and not to terminate its eligibility to use the general resources of the fund. And in 2007, a group of white farmers represented by Mike Campbell and Ben Frith approached the regional court to appeal against eviction under fast-track land reform program. The SADC tribunal made several important rulings in favor of the white farmers, which the U.S. senators behind Zidera have enforced as a precondition for re-engagement with the United States. We saw that, and the government of Zimbabwe there is working to pay this, and we see SADC is actually the one who put Zimbabwe in this position now, has to pay the white farmers. But having all of this in mind, and Mr. Manganza, I know you've been listening to all of this, and Abigail, they're saying there's nothing smart about these sanctions, and the European Union there, we saw how they responded to the government of Zimbabwe last year, and they're saying we do not have sanctions against Zimbabwe, not at all. What sanctions? Mr. Mangaza.
Yes. Thank you very much, Abigail. As I said earlier, the West is one interesting block, one funny block I was trying to say. Those guys, as I was trying to say, that they have got what they want from Zimbabwe. And so all they are trying to do is that they're trying to, that is scapegoating, trying to find some way just to say that Zimbabwe has got human rights abuses, Zimbabwe is just like that, there's no rule of law or whatever it might be. As we said even in our earlier discussion, that go into Zimbabwe, our police are there in full force maintaining law and order. And our Zimbabweans are the people who observe the rule of law. That is the truth. Secondly, we find out that the so-called superpowers, there is something which they want. As we said earlier, that they say that the land reform exercise was unfair. It took off the whites from their land. How can they claim that it was their land, the land which they took away from the indigenous blacks, and then they send those indigenous blacks to lands which were barren and then full of disease, and then all of a sudden they come back and claim that it is their land? Who are the indigenous Zimbabweans? The indigenous Zimbabweans are the blacks. So which means they were entitled to their land, and so which means they are in need of this land because our land is better. 1, 2, it is rich in mineral resources. 3, we've got the right climate for farming. And so which means that is what we are rightfully doing as indigenous Zimbabweans. If America wants to do business with Zimbabwe, the best thing for it is to come down, discuss with government, and then they discuss all the parameters or the ways they're going to follow so that at least business is done. Not for them to force Zimbabwe into their own traps and then imposing sanctions so that Zimbabwe has got to say, yes, boss, yes, boss. That period of yes, boss is over. We stood our ground, we took our land, we're in control of our resources, and the status quo will remain that way. Sanctions or no sanctions, the land was taken away. What we are now doing is that we want to make sure that the resources which we have, the resources which we took over, should be of benefit to the people of Zimbabwe. And we should also use those benefits, those resources, so that at least we also get into manufacturing and manufacture our products. Africa is a continent. We should trade as a continent now, instead of us relying on the West. There are lots of things which we might need which come from Kenya, which we don't have in Zimbabwe. And there are also those in Kenya which we don't have in Zimbabwe. So which means we would, that is the purpose of trade in Mozambique, in South Africa, and any other African country. We can trade on our own and then we go on. Let's have a united Africa, fight against this state whereby foreign countries, the West imposes what it wants on us as Africans. Time to say no is now.
All right. So we saw there in 2001 at Tendai BTS, we saw there and other MDC officials went to the US and called on the United States to put sanctions on Zimbabwe. That was in 2001. And also in 2018, MDC Alliance leaders Nelson Chamisa and also Tendai BT as well engaged different officials in the US Congress that year to extend the sanctions. And so we saw the U.S. actually, renewing those sanctions sometimes back last year. And I think also earlier this year. I don't know, do they not understand? Are they able to separate politics for things that will affect the people, the common people of Zimbabwe there? What is the obsession of, the opposition leadership there in Zimbabwe going out to call on sanctions that they know will ultimately affect everybody in that country? Are there other means they can use to make their voice known, or to, outside of just, calling on sanctions on their own country that affects their own people? Can they do things differently? Professor.
Yes, it's quite possible for them to. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I talk?
Go ahead.
Yes. Right. The opposition, why it is used in the West is that the opposition wants to create a situation whereby it is taken as if there is misgovernance in Zimbabwe, and then there will be an uprising by the ordinary Zimbabwean people. When there is that uprising, the West will intervene as if they are trying to instill rule of law in Zimbabwe, so that at least they will effect a regime change. So that is the tactic which is being used by the MDC, because they saw that they cannot win in the ballot box. And so which means they are now trying to use other means whereby they are going to use the suffering, that if people suffer, when they suffer, they revolt against the government. When they revolt against the government, the West comes in now as if they are coming in to help those people out of the quagmire in which they are. Actually, it will be a situation which has been induced by the opposition. If the opposition was really Zimbabwean, and for the benefit of Zimbabweans, it should have taken the olive branch which was handed out to them by President Mnangagwa, that let's have a forum which they call political actors dialogue, whereby they sit down, discuss with the government on what we should do for the benefit of our country, not calling the United States or calling the European Union to come in and instill in Zimbabwe on what we should do. It is us Zimbabweans and none other than us who can be in a position, and because we understand our problems and we understand what we are supposed to do, we sit down and discuss. But unfortunately, Chamisa is not for that way, because all he needs is to be in power, because he is a stooge of the West.
Doctor.
Okay. Let me add more here.
Go ahead.
The current, what Magatha is saying is very true. The current scenario, the stage is set. The problem with the current opposition in the whole Africa is when they attack you, it is very good. But when you respond, they cry to the Bazungu, to the white people that were being beaten. Look at this, even here on our own television. When they are attacking Mnangagwa and insulting the president, the MDC people, charlatans, are very happy all over. But when you put up a program to counter them, Miriam, look at the insults that they put. The type of insults that they send you. They even threaten people. They have threatened Father Alex all over. They don't want him to be. He has sent us a message just now. That is the problem. Look at all opposition in Africa that is sponsored by George Soros. Look at ours in Kenya here. When they attack President Uhuru Kenyatta and you rebut their attacks and you counter them, they become wild. They don't want you even to defend President Uhuru Kenyatta. Those are the syndromes of NGO politics. Anybody, Abigail will tell you she has been in one of those instrumental in NGOs and so on. She will tell you. They are told not to see. They are told not to talk what is even right. They are told to talk lies. You know, because if you talk something which is right in Africa and you are an NGO, no white man will give you the funding. You need to go there and talk about your country very badly in order to be given $20,000. Which when you come to use in Harare, you remain with only nothing to eat at home, but you have spoiled your country. So that is where the thing is. They are using opposition to cover themselves under democratic torch, that they want democracy. Yet, if you ask them about democracy, when people in Britain, for example, wanted to go back to vote whether they should leave European Union or not, Mr. Boris Johnson forced another vote against Theresa May, because people were saying, no, give us another vote. We voted wrongly. You get my point. You voted wrongly. Is that is in Britain now? Boris Johnson worked brought a vote of no confidence against Theresa May. Whatever is happening in MDC today is a duplicate of what happens in opposition that eats money from different types of NGOs in Europe. I'm telling you, it is the NGOs that are fighting, not the Zimbabweans. In MDC, the NGO, that one NGO wants to dominate MDC in order to use it. Another arm is saying, no, we are the people. So the fight, you can see the fight in MDC political party is as a result of the confusion that has been planted by external NGO problems of regime change and sanctions. Americans, for example, want to use the radical wing of MDC, led by Tendai Biti. Tendai Biti is a very radical man. I don't know whether Mangaza will agree with me. He's very radical.
That's true.
He doesn't want anything to do with negotiations with Mnangagwa. Why Chamisa is having problems in MDC is at times Chamisa is fallen in between radical men and moderate men. He would, if Chamisa was left alone, he would have walked to that building of President's office and said, I have come. Yes, I am not telling you a lie, but because he has men like a Tendai Biti, he has radicals. He has Vanguard Africa. Mercenaries called Vanguard Africa. Who sponsor Vanguard MDC. They say if you go, you will see. They have that thing of threatening people. So you study all this. If you go to Uganda, you will find the same thing happening in Bobi Wine, people power. If you say, no, but Museveni has done something, this is good, they will chuck you out. They don't want to hear that. They want you to come to the people power by singing, he's a very bad man. There is not even a railway, there is no road that was constructed. Then they will welcome you to be a party member. But they don't want you to say, Emerson Mnangagwa is constructing roads. Emerson Mnangagwa is putting infrastructure. Emerson Mnangagwa is doing housing. Emerson Mnangagwa is empowering agriculture, is booming again. Hunger will not kill people. People will feed themselves if rains come nicely. This agriculture make ways of doing things. Yes, we can't say you can change Zimbabwe overnight. Zimbabwe has a long way to go to change, but it is on the right path with Emerson Mnangagwa leading it. The roads that you are constructing, I saw your roads a few days ago. A type of construction. You can't believe that this is a country that is lacking some of the commodities, essential commodities like fuel. But the construction of roads, the construction of dams, the construction of bridges is taking place. And these are the things that the Western countries don't want to highlight. And that's why we bring these programs for Mangaza and Abigail and others to highlight them so that they pick our links. So many Western countries have picked this link, they are watching. You will see them cutting one piece and put Mangaza on show that this is what you said about sanctions. They are watching. So the problem here is, in summary, as we leave this topic, as we reassemble our progress, we need to find the way forward. And that is the next stage now that the panel should engage the way forward. What is the way forward in terms of points that people who are faced with sanctions, what is the way forward? What can we do? What much publicity can we do? How many of these programs can we do on a daily basis or in a weekly basis or monthly? Are there any presentations? Is there somebody going to court, to International Court of Justice, to ask why sanctions should remain after 20 years? You should be thinking about that, Magaza and Abigail. You should be thinking about writing a document, and some of us guide you to take you to the International Court of Justice. It can dispute, Zimbabwe has to move to International Court of Justice to ask why America has to continue with this last bit of so-called smart sanctions. There are grounds for dispute. There are serious grounds for dispute. And your people, your Attorney General, I used to know one man called Tomana, but now he has been appointed an ambassador. I saw yesterday, something like that. There's another Attorney General there. These are the things that they should be doing, not to sit there and wait for this thing to come every year and end another year. Let's take America to ICJ. Let's move with America to ICJ. There is a section that catches them. This is an international dispute. You are saying sanctions eat smart. You are calling them smart. We want the court to describe what is smart and ugly. What's the difference between smart and ugly? And the only way we can do it, my sister and my brother, tell the Attorney General of Zimbabwe to sit down and write a document. Zimbabwe is a member state of ICJ. To describe for me what is a smart sanction and an ugly sanction. If the judges in The Hague can tell me what a smart sanction and ugly one, if the smart sanction does not kill, and if the ugly sanction does not kill, then I will go to my grave. This is Mangaza and Abigail, you've got it very clearly. We cannot go on lamenting every day. No, too much. Let the Attorney General of the Republic of Zimbabwe file a case in the ICJ. Let the 15 judges decide if America is right or wrong. We are not disputing over territory. No, we are disputing over an illegality. This is an illegality imposed on millions of Zimbabweans. It is killing Zimbabweans. If your minister cannot walk to New York, if your country has no credit line, Abigail was talking about credit lines. Zimbabwe's credit lines have been blocked. If one country can stop your diamonds to be sold, your gold to be sold to the international world markets, are those not enough grounds for Zimbabwe to stand up and take this to the ICJ? Magaza, I read the whole. I studied that law.
Yes.
I am not Magaisha. This man called Magaisha. Magaisha what? The guy in London. These are small boys.
Magaisa.
Magaisha pretending to have these are bootlickers. I'm not a bootlicker. In London, they know me as a shrewd guy. I go for them when I go for them. Because that law is made by the British, by international community. The British people like intervention of intelligence. Let's intervene. The EU has removed the sanctions. America has refused. We can take America to the International Court of Justice. But you cannot take America to International Criminal Court. That they are two different.
Yeah.
The International Court of Justice, an American company that has imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe like a MasterCard. We can take it to court. But we cannot take an American to the ICC because they are not a party. They are not a signatory. They have not ratified. And now that the Matamai motion is here, I want to tell you, Matamai, we have wasted time. I want you to tell the Attorney General to prepare documents to go and sue this particular company that actually put sanctions on Zimbabwe. You can sue them in the International Court of Justice. You don't need to lament too much. You have lamented for all these years. Let's take action. If America is the only one left with us, on us, we can squeeze America in ICJ in The Hague. I don't know what have not been.
Yeah,
they have very bright minds, very bright brains. Your ambassadors who sit in The Hague, eat and drink wine, they are not thinking about that. The ambassador in Holland should think about that. So that when they hear, when these guys hear that you have taken them to court, when they hear you have taken a MasterCard and a Visa card, why Visa card should discriminate you? You are not at war. There is no war in Zimbabwe. The diamonds that you dig are not from a war zone. Why should you be stopped from selling your diamonds? Why should you be stopped from transacting with a MasterCard or Visa card? You are not Iranians. You have no terrorists harboring or training in the Kariba Dam or in the forest of Lupane or Bindura or Marondera or Darwin. There are no people training there as rebels or terrorists going to kill people. No. Zimbabwe is a sovereign state. Zimbabwe is a sovereign state. And Zimbabwe has a right to be heard, to be seen, to present its case at the International Court of Justice without delay. Why America? It can take time, but it will come. The case will be heard. Don't fear. We cannot lament year in, year out, year in, year out. This also targets some of those companies. If Visa card or MasterCard does not want to work with us, let's also take them to court to tell us why they don't work with black Zimbabweans and then they want to work with black Kenyans. Have you seen that?
Very well.
Why do you want to work with black Kenyans and then you refuse to work with black Zimbabweans or white Zimbabweans or yellow Zimbabweans who are in Zimbabwe?
That's discrimination.
It's a very high, yes, there you are. That type of discrimination can be arbitrated by ICJ. And the country, a member state of International Court of Justice, member state, has a right to take a case to be heard. You need the 15-member judge bench to decide whether sanctions are worth it or not worth it. So my dear people from Zimbabwe, Matamei, Motion, and Abigail and Magaza, time has come for the way forward, and that way forward is to initiate legal action as a state against the American companies or against American government. It will be served the documents. It is not you to serve the documents. The International Court of Justice will serve them the documents for respondents. They will respond. They must respond to international law. Otherwise, nobody will listen to them on international law also. You get my point?
Yes.
You got the solution today, Abigail. Abigail, you got the solution. We don't want to be lamenting.
Yes.
We don't want to be lamenting. Let's do action. Let the Attorney General of Zimbabwe prepare documents. If he doesn't know how to do it, let him ask me. We shall prepare documents and file them with the court. Let the court struggle on how to serve the American administration. Not your problem. But don't explain your position in International Court of Justice. I want to tell you, I went to the European Court. Magaza, you remember. You read when I went to International Court of Justice. You remember? Yes, on Europe. And when the Europeans saw the documents flowing, and the judges, some of them read through, very serious 200 indictments. The then Baroness Catherine, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the European Union, panicked and called the European Union Council to say, you know, this thing coming in the court could bring us a lot of trouble. Let's start easing some sanctions on Zimbabwe. And the first thing they did was to allow Zimbabwe to sell its diamonds. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. She asked those people who are complaining of Human Rights Watch that can you bring me evidence to show that the younger children are the ones digging the diamonds? They couldn't bring.
It was a lie.
It was a lie. And they found the documents in court. The documents must be read. Where we are explaining every day, every time, every month, they will not understand. So that's the way forward. I think nobody else will summarize it more than I have. And as a result of that, I think I give my panel 1 minute to summarize, each to say what you want to say. But meanwhile, when we return here next week to discuss other topics, I want an update, an update on how far Abigail and Madaza you have gone. How far the Attorney General, if he is not able to do it, we shall do it. We shall do it, write the documents and give him to do it, to clean up on legality. This is something that can be interpreted, and the court could interpret in favor of Zimbabwe. You don't need to put smart sanctions. It is only that. Let them tell us what type of smartness they are. I want the court to tell me how smart. Color, in color, in height, in beauty. Are these sanctions beautiful? Do they talk? They hurt the children of Zimbabwe. So I want the court to interpret for me. How much do they hurt the children who need medicine in hospitals? That is my position. I rest my case.
Very well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr.
We start with Abigail, your way forward as we conclude. Abigail.
Thank you so very much. I think in my closing remarks I should say. Can you hear me?
Yes, a bit of echo there, not very clear, but go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so very much. I should say in my closing remarks, I'm challenged, and I want to believe the people of Zimbabwe we are challenged at this point in time. And what I can say is that, like we already said, the sanctions are affecting the ordinary citizens. And the general, minister, president, call them names, all these public officials, they represent the interests of the public, the general public. So to that end, we have a responsibility to rise to the show and make sure that we are now taking this issue out of debate into action. And that I can assure you that this is one thing that we need to do. We cannot continue to repeat the same thing again and again and expect different results. And of course, I want to continue to thank the support right there from Punchline Africa TV. The issue around sanctions needs to be taken to another level because sanctions survive on lies, it survive on cheap rhetoric and propaganda. So we also need to continue to position the Zimbabwe story on the international, national platforms and in the region. So while this action will be necessary like now, we also have a responsibility to continue to position the true Zimbabwe story so that our African brothers across the board will also continue to support us in solidarity as we take another route now into action. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Abigail. The Mpambi from Harare, Mr. Mangaza. Which way forward?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Miriam. Definitely, as Abigail rightfully said, that we are taking a new direction, which is the ICJ route. And definitely, we are going to work hand in glove so that we make sure that at least we take that route in order to make sure sanctions are removed, and then they have got to answer to the world why Zimbabwe, a small country in Southern Africa, is being punished. If there are any other reasons which they have got to say, they have got to say to the international court. But as far as we know, as Zimbabweans, there is nothing which we have done to the world which makes us deserve to be punished in such a way. We need to progress. Zimbabwe has the potential to progress as long as it is given the right atmosphere, whereby or the right economic platform or the right platform to operate, whereby the world sees it as its partner, not sees it as an outcast. So we call now upon the world that to those who understand that there are no human rights violations in Zimbabwe, is there and it is serving its people. President Mnangagwa has tried his best in making sure that Zimbabwe gets its international acclaim. So no to sanctions. Sanctions should go.
Very well. Thank you so much, Mr. Mangaza.
So, Miriam, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Matamai. If you can now give us your just comments of what you have. I know you have come in very late, but just give us which way, whether you think our show and our program is on track.
Dr. Matanga, thank you, Miriam, and thank you.
You increase the volume.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
A bit louder.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
I am not hearing you, but It's okay.
Okay, can I proceed?
Yeah, now you can proceed, sir.
Thank you very much once again, panelists. Good morning, everybody. It's quite an interesting topic that we are having, where we are discussing sanctions and particularly as they are targeted on Zimbabwe and their effects on Zimbabweans, particularly the Zimbabwean general populace. And in any case, it has little effect on the Zimbabwean politicians, but rather much to do with the general populace who are victims of the targeted sanctions purported to be affecting political leaders. My little input into that is that we have had cries as to the elections of Zimbabwe being expected to always be fair and free. Each time Zimbabwe goes for elections, we had elections in 2018, we are going to have elections in 2023, God willing, and we are told that those elections should be free and fair. But look, when we are discussing the free and fairness of an election, we must also start from the issue of sanctions, where how do sanctions contribute to a free and fair election? You would notice that the presence of sanctions in itself is an impediment to free and fair elections as expected, because one, it affects the preparations economically and financially, where the government has to strive to ensure that it meets its democratic obligation to ensure that there are elections. But then financially, the government will be struggling to the extent that sometimes some political commentators would say we would rather go with a transitional government where we avoid elections which are economically cumbersome than a transitional government which can exist for 10 years to avoid using monies in which are always used to go for elections. So when we talk of a free and fair election with sanctions present against Zimbabwe, automatically the absence of free and fairness of those elections starts with the presence of what? Of sanctions, where the government has to suffer to ensure that elections are held. Meanwhile, the government of Zimbabwe would want to impress the world that it adheres to democratic needs by going to elections, but it will also be affecting its own pace, where it needs to fork a lot of money, a lot of foreign currency to ensure that observers come, a lot of resources are put up to campaign and what have you. But how do we do that freely and fairly in the presence of illegal sanctions? That is the first issue that I want to just touch on. Then secondly, I really appreciate the ICJ issue, where the government can pursue the international law and sue the Americans for illegally sanctioning Zimbabwe without proper justification. The country needs to put its case across its ICJ. But I'm really impressed after the United Nations General Assembly, where I saw quite a number of African countries and Asian countries coming in through to demonstrate their support for Zimbabwe. Now Zimbabwe needs to hang on that support to ensure that they go a step further at law and engage the ICJ to ensure that America is brought to book. America is a sovereign state, can be geographically bigger than Zimbabwe, but we are all equal when it comes to the issues of sovereignty. As such, Zimbabwe can pursue the ICJ issue. If it pursues the ICJ issue properly with the support of China, which we saw China giving us maximum support at the United Nations General Assembly and other African states, that route on its own may put shame and an egg on the American face. Trump particularly, who is battling to hold himself for the next term, where he is under siege from the opposition. We then need to put a little bit of some pressure on him by approaching the ICJ to ensure that Trump is answerable to certain cases. I assure the Zimbabweans that taking that route at the moment is a good timing, because Trump has other focuses internally where he needs to secure a second term. As such, he would not want to dwell much on the Zimbabwean case. My input, doctor and panelist, is that it is high time Zimbabwe tries everything. With the support of AU, I see a victory being assured, and in a way, we need to make an appreciation that there are also other bigger powers. China, we had the Chinese president at the United Nations General Assembly saying it will not watch as America plays a big brother against the rights of other states. Let's then hold on to that, hang on to that, build on that, the momentum to ensure that we restore ourselves, ensure that the illegal sanctions are pushed off. Thank you very much, our panelists. And once again, my apologies for coming in a little bit late. I had other commitments that tarried into your time. Thank you very much, panelists.
Thank you very much. We picked everything you have said. You picked, this is our new direction. Every time we talk, we must have a solution. But before you go, all of you, before Professor and Karen and the Professor come in to make, and Miriam final, let's look at that video. There's a video coming where President Trump has admitted that Iraq was a better place, Libya was a better place with Gaddafi. I think it is very important, people who are agitating for regime change, to listen to what Trump has just said a few days ago.
Thank you.
So let's bring.
All right, they're still working on it. Doctor is not ready. They're working on it. As we wait for
They're working on it?
Yes.
As they work on it, let's bring in Karen.
Yes.
The quote. You can quote for us another one. President Magufuli said.
Okay, I do not have another one, but that is what he said. That if you cut or chop off a part of the human body, it affects the whole system, the whole body itself. So not only do these sanctions affect Zimbabwe, the government itself, but the rest of the region. That is the president of Tanzania, also the chairman of SADC. Now, the way to go, Miriam and Daktari, you've been asking that. But before I even give you the way to go, I feel like these are smart sanction, these two words or these phrases, smart sanctions, should not even be there. And that's why they need to justify it in court. Let them tell us how smart they are. Let them tell us how they promote economic recovery. Let them justify it to us that the smart sanctions do not punish the poor and the most vulnerable. Then we will be satisfied. But as far as it is right now, there's nothing like smart sanctions. Sanctions are sanctions. Now, the way forward, apart from the legal action, I think what we do in this forum, Punchline TV, it's one of the ways of, making it public, defending Zimbabwe and telling people what's happening in Africa. So it's one of those ways that we are trying to publicize and tell the people to lift the sanctions, tell people how other people in Zimbabwe are hurt. So it's another forum that will actually make the other world out there know what is happening. So that is another way of actually working on lifting the sanctions. Another way is we have SADC, and last year in August, they resolved on dedicating October 25th, that was last year, October 25th, a day of collectively calling for the removal of sanctions. So if they can keep on doing that, we are doing it over and over again, then we will, all of us will be working on having these sanctions lifted. So setting aside some day, some specific day, that we'll all be doing it together collectively, call for the removal of these sanctions is another way of working on this issue on the ground right now. And I find it so unfair because we have another president in Zimbabwe right now. So it means it signifies a new chapter. Why should you have Zimbabwe suffer for almost it's almost 2 decades right now? They're going through economic isolation for almost 2 decades. It's under a new president. It signifies a new chapter. So we expect that they consider that this is a country and a new government. So they should just lift the sanctions. So we demand for the immediate and unconditional removal of these illegal sanctions, including the trade sanctions, the sanctions against the bilateral, multilateral financial support. We are against all of that. Back to you, Miriam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the thing is ready now.
Yes.
Stephen, is it ready?
Yes, it's ready.
Okay, let's cue it in.
But you also recently said that the Middle East would be better off with Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, and Assad in power. How does...
I didn't say Assad, but we certainly have not gained anything with Gaddafi. And you look at what happened. I mean, look at Libya. Look at Iraq. Iraq used to be no terrorists. He would kill the terrorists immediately. It was like, now it's the Harvard of terrorism. Iraq. If you look at Iraq from years ago, I'm not saying he was a nice guy. He was a horrible guy. But it was a lot better than it is right now. Right now, Iraq is a training ground for terrorists. Right now, Libya, nobody even knows Libya. Frankly, there is no Iraq and there is no Libya. It's all broken up. They have no control. Nobody knows what's going on.
The world would be better off with Saddam Hussein
100%.
and Gaddafi in power?
100%. Now, as far as Assad is concerned,
what about the human rights abuses?
Let's talk about, well, you don't think they're happening now? They're worse now than they ever were. People are getting their heads chopped off. They're being drowned. Right now, they're far worse than they were ever under Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi. I mean, look what happened. Libya is a catastrophe. You look at our ambassador as an example, okay? Libya is a disaster. Iraq is a disaster. Syria is a disaster. The whole Middle East. And it all blew up around Hillary Clinton and around Barack Obama. It all blew up.
Thank you very much. Viewers, you have heard for yourselves. Magaza.
Yes, I watched that one.
You can see how imperialism works.
Yeah, that's true.
Matemai, you can see how it works. Abigail, you see how imperialism works. Karen, that's how imperialism works. After killing you, then they come to say it was a mistake. So, Professor Onyari, just sum it up for us.
Yes.
We don't hear you. We can't hear you.
I'm saying, Dr. Masanga, thank you. This was a big and a great topic for us to discuss for the people of Africa, particularly the comrades from Zimbabwe. You captured my mood of saying that time has come for us to change tactics and to have a strategy on how we have to deal with these transactions, these sanctions. We can't keep on talking about sanctions for 20 years and then we must come out. Dr. Masanga, there is no doubt that the sanctions have affected the economy of Zimbabwe. There is no doubt the sanctions have affected the growth of industry in Zimbabwe. There is no doubt the sanctions have violated the youth development in Zimbabwe. There is no doubt, Dr. Masanga, that the banking sector have cut off funding to the industries and to the people of Zimbabwe. And I can only summarize that the sanctions have destroyed the future of Zimbabwe. So we should continue as of now to increase our momentum of rising and say no. We should use all the available means at our disposal as African people. You can hear for yourselves. We can't go now and get Gaddafi, who was so much committed towards United States of Africa. They killed him. They killed Saddam, and now they are admitting life is gone. We can't go this route. So many lives have been destroyed in Zimbabwe because of the sanctions. And at some point in time in life, someone has to stand and be responsible, take responsibility. The idea you have fronted is the way to go. And the people of Zimbabwe, comrades, take the lead. We don't want to be professional mourners. When the bereaved people are not mourning, we want to mourn together. We want to feel these sanctions affecting the people of Zimbabwe. If we don't speak today, tomorrow they will come to Kenya, they will go to Uganda, they will go to South Africa, they will go to Algeria, they will go to Nigeria, Ghana, and the entire continent of Africa. Time has come for us to rise up and say that we are not children of a lesser God. We are children of God. We want to be given space to breathe. We want to take our children to school. We want to go to hospital and find drugs. We want to build our roads. We want to do all that pertains to the continent of Africa. I submit, Dr. Masanga.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the dangers is his parting shot. And I want to thank you, Professor. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you from Harare.
Thank you, Doctor.
I want to thank Abigail. I want to thank Saxon, who is not on the show, but managed to put all of you together. We shall overcome some of the technical difficulties that we are having for many of people in Zimbabwe. I want to appeal to the government of Zimbabwe themselves to open up to discuss these things on this type of medium, because this is where your opponents are scoring marks. People no longer look at typewriter, they look at social media. When I was doing my exam of physics, writing for conflict resolution on Northern Ireland, I used a typewriter called Brother. I still have it in my house. I've kept it as a memory. But if you ask the typewriter today what it should do for you, it can't tell you. But if you ask Google today what it can do for you, it can bring the food Miriam ate yesterday, Magaza ate yesterday, or Abigail ate, or Motion is not here, is in Ghana. So the opposition that is against Zimbabwe is using the social media. Abigail and Madaza and Motion, especially Motion, take it seriously. But if you don't support such moves, where we, like now, we have been picked by several television stations that are showing this same program in Nigeria. For example, they are showing it right now in Southern Africa. The Southern Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation is showing it live. How many millions are understanding the plight of Zimbabweans? Very many. So you should always don't ever sit and think of fire, but try to cause fire. Don't call for it to eat you, but use it to also stop the enemy from eating you.
That's true.
Use it. Let's use this mechanism to speak the words, the advice, the way forward here. But May Motion, you might not have been listening. I am telling you, let the Attorney General seek advice from some of us who have studied international law. We help him to prepare those documents. We want to battle America in the larger international court, so that tomorrow America does not say it is the power to tell us our people to demonstrate or not. To tell us MDC should be allowed to speak their mind. Who are they to speak their mind? When in America you have refused to come to the court in ICJ. Have you seen how the strategy will work very well?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's not lament. And I agree with President Emerson Mnangagwa when he said, we have lamented too much. Time has come now for action. Let's try to find ways of beating sanctions. There are brothers in Kenya who would like to help you. There are businessmen in Kenya who would like to come and invest, to maybe put lines of credit through Nairobi. Let's open up ourselves. Let's not close to ourselves. Lastly, let's not behave like Emperor Nero. Emperor Nero called for fire, 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 fire. Until fire came to burn Rome. Let's stop calling sanction, sanction. Let's say, kill it, kill it. There is no smart sanction. Let's kill the smart sanctions ourselves. Let's kill them so that the smart sanctions are not called smart. Once we kill them, the Americans will know there are no smart sanctions. They are ugly sanctions that keep on killing us. Because when you call them smart and they keep quiet, then people will say the smart sanctions are working. Isn't it, Magaza? We have to work. We have to show them. We have to expose them.
That is the truth, Doctor.
Yes, we have to expose these so-called smart sanctions. Tell them that they are very bad. Let's repulse them through the legality. They are illegal. Let's go and lay an illegal route using legal means to expose America of its hypocrisy on the question of smart sanctions on Zimbabwe. That is it. There, once you are saying it can take 1 year, by 2021, the end of the year, we would have got results. The court would have decided whether Visa card is allowed to deny Zimbabweans a right to use Visa, and then it is allowed to use a Kenyan national in Nairobi to use a visa. So what criteria is the nation of Zimbabwe, who has the same blood like the nation of Kenya, who is also black or white or yellow or Chinese? You know, we are growing a few Chinese that are also growing on the African continent. I am sure that in Zimbabwe there are Chinese children growing because we can't stop it. In Kenya, Uganda, we have Chinese growing children. Chinese who came here 10 years ago and produced children, they are now big. Those are now Kenyans. They are no longer Chinese. They have settled here. They are doing their businesses here. So this is the way we do an international game on America. America will not listen. The Attorney General of America will not listen to us if we cry every day. But he will listen to the document which is at its table. You get my point, people?
Yes, Doctor.
A document laid with reasons that compels you to send your ambassador to The Hague or your lawyers to the International Court of Justice to show cause why you have so-called smart, you are the only country who has put smart sanctions on another country. North Korea has done it. You know, North Korea has taken these cases. There are some countries, Iran has taken cases there. There are so many countries that have taken cases against America. It might refuse to come to court, but it might not refuse to see the consequences when other African countries also block visa from being used in their countries. You get, I think that sinks very well, Motion Matamai and Abigail and my brother. The two of us or the three of us left on the panel, we thank you. Miriam, I thank you very much. And Karen from Malindi, I want to leave you to enjoy, to go and have hot water. Your sunshine is very bright on the coast. You are never lacking anything except the cold. You seem to have a cold, so you'll have to go and swim a bit. Sit outside. You must have had a lot over the weekend. So swim and enjoy. Those in Harare, I don't know how the weather is. Abigail, the weather is it winter now?
We're in summer.
You are going to summer. So the weather is
summer.
Yes, I'm told this week planes will open. You are opening your airspace this week, isn't it?
We understand so.
On 1st of October. So, Abigail, expect us to be coming. You'll receive us, and we shall discuss most of these things. Let's keep the subject going. Let's talk about these sanctions. It is not, we don't need money to talk about them, but ideas like this we exchange. The ideas we're exchanging will help Zimbabwe. For example, go to your Attorney General, seek advice. Why is he not filing a case? Let the case be rejected, but let him try. We can't mourn throughout. We can't be the book of lamentation. Even in the book of lamentation, they said, once you lament beyond lamentation, lamentation becomes saltless. So there you are. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Asante sana. Tatenda. Asante sana. Tatenda, Abigail. I will talk to you later. I will talk to you later, all of you, and I will talk to Sanctions. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana, Matemahi, all of you, Karen. Thank you, Miriam. I leave you for your lunch. And we come back at 3 p.m. East African Standard Time for another grand show. Right. This one has got 4 topics, very deadly. Okay. You can't miss this. It is very interesting. Even a man, a deputy president, using a wheelbarrow to win votes. So you can't believe this. It is very interesting story.
Right. Thank you so much.
This afternoon, 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. God bless you. God bless everybody. Ciao.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.